Hi, thanks for spending time with me today. We're continuing on in the Max Pottag preparatory melodies to solo work, and this is number 53. And the title is Marche Triomphale, a triumphant march. Okay, and it makes me think of March from Aida, for example, from the opera Aida. So it's got some of that trumpet character to it, but interestingly, it starts soft. So this is something we'll talk about a little bit. I'm going to try and play through it. This is a little bit longer than some of the other ones because it has a dal segno. So you go back and include another 2.5 lines once you get through. So here goes. Pretty interesting. It's got a lot of verve, right? Enthusiasm. Very easy to understand this kind of energy, this kind of majestic quality. Now that's got a lot of detail in it, and there are many things that you may run into when you're trying to get this effect, get that character of the music. But most people have trouble on the soft end or going to the soft end. So that's a continuous kind of topic with all these, since they're written with big dynamic changes. So the first rule is don't start too soft. Now, I started pretty soft, but that depends on the context. If you're playing with a large group, what's the balance? If you're playing in a small room or a large room, what's really appropriate? How far away is the audience? I can tell you some very funny stories about that, but I'm not going to indulge myself at the moment. But you have to take all these things into consideration to say, well, what's appropriate? So if you're playing in your bedroom, for example, and there's a lot of soft furniture and carpet, you may find it hard to get that kind of ring in the sound that you're trying to get. Well, you know, that's just because you're playing in an acoustic that's not very helpful to you. If you're playing in a big room with a lot of echo in it, which I'm in a fairly large room now, in my studio here, and I'm getting a reverb. Now, it's not a long reverb, but it does blur the attacks a little bit. So if you're playing in a big hall especially, you have to pronounce much more clearly and allow for space in between the notes. So all those things need to be taken into consideration. It's not a formula that fits everything. It's a relationship with the group you're playing with the hall that you're playing in. So right at the beginning, it starts soft, but you want to create that feeling in the listener. It's a fanfare. Oh, something is going to happen. You know, something important is going to happen. Now I made a crescendo, and I realized there is no crescendo in the piece. Well, it's natural to make a crescendo. The music kind of told me to make a crescendo, but the piece is saying no. How do I know that? Well, it says piano, and then third bar in it says simile, which means keep it. Well, actually that may be referring to the articulation. Keep it staccato articulation, because you get lazy and stop putting the staccato dots on the notes. But see, I'm not sure about that, so I'm going to try it both ways. So I think it sounds better the first way I played it. It sounds more natural. I think that was the intention of the composer. But I like to practice all these options because you never know when the conductor is going to ask you to do it differently than you thought. So exploring that helps your body to kind of be ready for the next thing that's going to happen. So the takeaway from this is when you're playing in a soft dynamic, if at all possible, as much as possible, maintain the intended musical intensity. So if it's a fanfare, so you're playing louder, you get the impact of the notes. So you're playing softer, it's more difficult to maintain that same impact in the articulation. It's more delicate. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to go, keep the intensity of the attack. So you have these staccato dots, then you have regular accents, and then you have, only one marcato marking? Interesting. So again, I'm taking these things literally. So that the regular accents, as I would call it, no, there's a few more. The second line has some marcato. So let me just play into that. So I'm going to do that once again, and I'll tell you what to listen for. Bom, 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 bom. Those notes are marked marcato, right? The second group of notes, ta 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 ta, are marked accented with a standard kind of accent, right? So when I play those notes, they have a different kind of character. You might call it a long accent. And you can hear it's like a little decay on the note. The marcato notes are more separated. Now, this doesn't mean it doesn't mean you have to play short when you play marcato. What it does mean is you need to allow for enough separation so you can hear the explosive power of the attack. Because that mark, that clearly delineated attack, that pop, if you will, that's what you're trying to get to reach out into the hall. And when your audience is at a distance, you're going to have to work a little bit harder to do that. When you're on a microphone or you're pretty close, especially in a studio setting, you don't need to tongue that hard. The separation still may be necessary, but you don't need to try very hard because normal people don't put their ear 2 feet from the trumpet bell to listen. They go farther away because we're playing a loud instrument. So you need to consider what the context is of what you're playing with this. Okay, I think a lot of this is pretty straightforward. Always dotted eighths and sixteenths come up. So at the end, he starts to move into dotted eighths and sixteenths, introduced at the third line. Okay, da 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 da. So this is an interesting rhythm. Many great teachers and players, Herbert Clark, Goldman, Arbin, many others, observed that most players have difficulty with this rhythm. And many of you know that, and many of you have probably worked on it. But here's what I want to point out, related to what I was just talking about with the separation of the notes. It's marked staccato here, so they should be separated, which is what staccato means. So when I play the dotted notes here or at the end before the dal segno, I'm trying to create separation so it's easier to hear the definition of the notes. But I don't want it to sound ricky-ticky. I don't want it to sound rigid and square and vertical. So it's always a balance, and this is something to listen for, between the gesture and the feeling of the line and that vertical sense that comes from the articulation, the mark of the articulation. So this is the pickup into the last 3 bars. Etc., etc. Now, I'm playing these pretty literally, I think. I wasn't concentrating on it, I was just hearing it. So all serious musicians need to train themselves to be able to feel the subdivision of the notes, the internal beats that kind of give you the structure. In this case, it's 16ths, obviously. And most people don't play these accurately or consistently. It might be a little rushed. A lot of you who have been in marching band programs, for example, or drum and bugle corps, when you're playing outside like that, sometimes this has to be exaggerated, and so the band director will say, no, faster on the 16th note. So what does that mean? Instead of going it's becoming da 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 da. It's a different subdivision, and that's okay as long as everybody does it the same. But here it feels like to me that it should be literal. It should be square. I'll point out one more thing that people are going to run into, and I get this from pretty much everybody, especially when you're trying to play short notes and quick notes like we're talking about now with the dotted eighths and 16ths. There's a tendency to do this. And I'll talk about this in more detail when I get into the foundations, the deeper parts of what physically is going on when you're playing the trumpet. The tongue tends to be blocking the air a lot when we're articulating. And if I blow harder, you hear all that friction that's there. Now, when I put that in the trumpet, it doesn't sound too bad. But what I actually want is how easy and how vocal can my sound production be? Nothing forced. So now there's nothing getting in the way of the air. Oh, but the tongue is getting in the way of the air. You just don't want to leave it there. So when most people play this kind of rhythm, they're going with the tongue actually blocking the airstream to one extent or another. And there's a reason for that. It's like you don't want to get your tongue too far away from wherever it's going to touch to create that seal. If you do that, it's harder to get it back in place. But the priority here is always allow for the greatest freedom of sound and the greatest resonance and the greatest focus, the greatest quality, the greatest beauty in the sound. If you lose that, you lose the projection and you lose the power and you lose the response. So we're trying to tongue hard, and as a result, instead of oh, it's not ta-ta, 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 it's ta-ta, 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 ta-ta. And ta-ta is more difficult. The way I was taught, and I didn't understand it at the time, is Mr. Young at Oberlin used to tell me, no, a complete tongue stroke. And I said, what is that? What's the tongue stroke? It's like, well, it's the movement of the tongue, but I still didn't understand it. What he was trying to say is, instead of going ta-ta, short stroke, ta-ta, long stroke, now the tongue's out of the way. Complete stroke to get the tongue out of the way. So you're not going so the air quality, the energy, the flow of the air is consistent and smooth and dependable. And that's where all your control comes from. So I give you a little quick lesson on basic articulation skill. And here's where you're going to get to practice it. This is also exactly the same at the beginning when it starts soft. Most people go, they're already choking the air off by choking with the throat, maybe too much mouthpiece pressure, maybe holding back, holding back the air with the body, or with the tongue, which is the easiest thing to do. So go experiment with this a little bit, break it down, work on your articulation, and see if you can get the quality that you want to make this, this piece really sparkle. I hope this is fun for you. It's fun for me, which is why I want to share it with you. So enjoy your practice, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.